Hi, thanks for joining Excel Basics, where Excel is simplified. VLookups. This is something you've probably heard of and may have noticed that people might sometimes feel intimidated by it. It's actually very simple to use. I'll be showing you exactly how to use it and how valuable it is, because many times we'll encounter two separate tables. They could be on two separate spreadsheets or two separate tabs, for example, that are related to each other, and we want to pull data from the second table into the first one. So the main points we'll be reviewing today are understanding how matching keys work before using VLookup, how to use VLookup to find matching values in a different table and pull data from it, basically how you link two tables together, and finally, how to create a matching key if one doesn't exist in one of your tables already. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Here we have a table within this first tab that has song names and the artists that sing those songs, right? We also have their record labels. We also have song ID right here on the left. On the second tab, we have a separate table that is related, which has the album information for each song. But they're set on two different tables, two different data sets. So how do we tie them together, right? Because I know I have the song from Kelly Clarkson here, but I want to know, well, which album does this song exist in? The data is here. So how do we bring it onto this table? Well, that's where VLookup does its magic. First off, you have to understand that in order for VLookup to work, you need to have a matching key on each table. So one on this table, one on this table. These matching keys are typically referred to as primary keys or foreign keys, but just keep the word key in mind. Okay, so to help you understand this concept, think of it like this. Album data, we need to find the keys from album data that we could then insert into the keyholes from the song data, right? That way we could connect them and make them work. So a key, a matching key is essentially a column with unique values. What do I mean by unique? Unique means values that do not repeat themselves. For example, if we look at song ID, we could tell that these numbers do not repeat themselves. If we look at song names don't repeat themselves. If we look at artists, artist names do repeat themselves, right? Because one artist could sing many songs, which is why you have Taylor Swift 3 times, James Blunt 4 times, you have Adele twice. So this cannot be used as a key. Now, record label also cannot be used as a key because there are duplicates, right? These are not, this is not a column of unique values. So, as we said, the first two are. So now that we know that these two columns can be used as a key because they're unique, how do we determine which one we use? Well, the way you determine this is by checking your other table. You have to make sure that whichever column you're going to use exists on your second table, whether that be on a separate tab or separate spreadsheet, or even a separate table to the right. So in this case, I'm going to check on the second tab to see if this column exists. All right, I see no song name, so no, we cannot use song name, even though it's unique. What about song ID? It's unique. Does it exist over here? Yes, it does. Here it is. So that's exactly what we're going to use as our key. We now have our column that contains our keys, and then we have our column over here that contains our matching keyholes. One more thing you'll want to make sure of is that within the table that you're going to be pulling data from, meaning your second table, you want to make sure that your key column is placed furthest to the left. We know we're going to look up song ID, so we want to grab this. I'm doing Control X, and then I'm going to insert it at the beginning of my album or second table. Perfect. So song ID is there. That's all I need. Now we're ready to execute VLookup. So I'm going to click here, hit equals VLookup, and I could simply hit tab here. Now, when you are typing up VLookup, think of it as giving Excel a shovel to dig with. Okay, so you just handed Excel a shovel. Now Excel is asking, okay, I've got a shovel to dig. What do you want me to dig up? What do you want me to look for? So I'm going to tell Excel, I want you to look for number 1. Okay, now I'm going to hit comma over here, comma. Now Excel is asking, okay, now I know what to look for. Now tell me, where do you want me to dig? That's the table array. So I'm going to say, okay, Excel, I want you to come back over here to the second table, and I want you to dig in this section here, columns A and B. I want you to dig here. And as you can see up here, the VLookup has been updated, contains A and B automatically. I'm going to hit comma one more time. Now Excel is saying, okay, now I know what to look for, where to look for it, these two columns. Now tell me, if I find the number 1 that you're looking for, what do you want me to come back to you with? What do you want me to say? So I'm going to say, hey, Excel, I want you to come back to me with the album name that matches that number. But I can't tell Excel album name. I can't type in album name. It's not going to work. I can't tell Excel, look at column B. I have to give it the column number. So if you start from your left, column A is your first column, column number 1. Column B, or album name, is your column number 2. So I'm going to enter 2. And one more time, column. So now I've told Excel, I want you to find this value, which is, we know it's number 1, that's the value. I want you to dig in this section, and I want you to come back to me with the album name, the matching album name. Now Excel is asking me, okay, perfect, I can do that. Do you want me to give you a somewhat match, or do you want me to give you the exact match if one is found? So yes, I want the exact match. So I'm going to double click here. I'm going to close the parentheses and hit enter. All right, look at that. I just hit enter and it populated. Now I could simply click on that cell and then drag down here just to see if it's working. There you go, voila. Now you can see the album names that are tied to their pertinent songs and artist name. That's perfect, that's what we wanted. Now I could go ahead and double click on this tiny green box to populate everything else. Now you might say, well, I want to double check and make sure that this is the actual album in which this song exists. Okay, well, we know that this is a song from Kelly Clarkson called Goodbye. It's song ID number 1, and it's supposed to exist on Chemistry Deluxe. Let's go ahead and check the albums. Okay, so if we look down here, we've got Kelly Clarkson. Okay, we've got our value 1, perfect. And the album name is actually Chemistry Deluxe. So yes, it's working perfectly. And we now have it all for every single artist and song. So I'm going to go ahead and add album here because we know this is now the album column here. And perfect. One thing I will say though is take a look up here. Right here, you see the VLookup. Anytime I click, oops, sorry about that. Anytime I click on any of these values, any of these cells, you see that the VLookup is there. Well, if you leave it as is, it could be dangerous because we've got our albums here, but if for some reason Later on, I'm like, okay, we've got our values. Awesome. Let me go back to this table. You know what? I'm going to add a new column because I just remembered I want to have additional information. So I just type in blah, blah, blah. Now I'm going to come back to my first table and oh no, what happened? What happened to our VLookup, our values, right? So now it's all messed up because our VLookup was still looking into this table, but now we've modified it. So something I like to do is, let me type in album. Something I like to do is copy this entire column, all of the values that have the VLookup, and repaste. Oh, I don't know why it's glitchy. Repaste using this, repaste as text, only the values. So now I could go ahead and modify this table all I want because this will no longer be impacted. Take a look up here. It's all text now. It's no longer a VLookup. So I could go ahead and add as many columns as I want, any additional rows, blah, 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 blah. No problem. Everything is perfectly intact. So let's go ahead and jump over to these two tables in yellow or gold. So similar to before, again, we have song information, song data, right? We have the song ID, song name, the artists that sing the songs, etc. Over here, again, we have album data, good to go. Well, let's go ahead and create the VLookup because we know we could use song ID as one of our keys or keyhole. And then here we could also use song ID. Wait a minute, we don't have a column called song ID. So how are we going to go ahead and connect these two tables and pull the data that we want? Well, unfortunately, this is something that can be encountered in the real world. So what we want to do here is create our own new column that has unique values. So as we look at the album tab, we can see that this column contains both the song ID, which we do have on the song data tab, and it also contains artist name, which we also have on the song data tab. So let's make use of this column to create our connection. I'm going to go back to the song data tab and we're going to create that new column with unique values. So what I'm going to use is concatenate. So I'm going to type in equals concat. I'm going to hit tab. Now I'm going to tell Excel, okay, Excel, I want you to combine this value here from this column. And then I'm going to hit comma. I'm going to type in a quotation mark, hit space, quotation mark again, comma, and then I'm going to select artist name, right? Because we want to combine them two, combine the both, so that they match the column under album data. Now what you see here is we're telling Excel, Excel, I want you to combine cell A2, which is this here, song ID 107. Then I want you to create a space in between this and the artist name so that it matches the column that's under album data. Okay, so we've got it set up. I'm going to hit enter. There you go. Now I could highlight this going down and it's doing it for every single row. It's grabbing the song ID, combining it with the artist name with a space in between. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and double click. Now we've got it down for all. Now if we go back to our album data, we're going to see the same thing. We have song ID, space, and the artist name. Now we could actually use this new column to connect to this column here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and name it the same, song ID and artist name, just so that it's easy for me to remember. ID and artist name. Okay, And similar to before, I don't want this function to be messed up if I start moving things around. So I'm going to copy, repaste as text. So 1, 2, 3. There we go. So I'll start on the VLookup. So I'm going to do VLookup, and remember at this point we're handing Excel the shovel and we're saying, hey Excel, I want you to look up this value on this side. I want you to dig here for that value. And then I want you to return the album name, which is column 1, 2. So I'm going to add a 2, and I want the exact match. Okay, close that and hit enter. And here we go. So I'm going to expand that downward, and there you are. All of the album names for our song names. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and copy and repaste as text just to be safe. Now I'm going to title this album, and if I wanted to, I could go ahead and place it in between here because it's just text. And I could go ahead and get rid of this custom key that we had created. We don't need it anymore, so you could go ahead and delete that. And now, there you go. You've got a clean combined set of data. You've got song name, song ID, you've got the album, the artist name. Perfect. So that's how you could create your own key in order to complete a VLookup. Well, that's it for this video. If you've enjoyed it, please like and subscribe, and check out my channel for additional Excel tips and tricks. And remember, let's excel together.